Anyway, you all elevated my game. I certainly hope I did the same for you. Let's be honest, it was a difficult part. A guy who gets high, takes his shirt off, and doesn't get on with his wife.
Brad Pitt has worked with some of Hollywood's biggest names, but behind the scenes, not every partnership was smooth or even tolerable. For years, rumors have floated around about the actors he never wanted to share a set with again. Now, after decades in the industry, Brad is finally opening up about the 5 co-stars who pushed his patience to the limit. From explosive on-set clashes to quiet feuds the public never knew about, these are the actors Brad Pitt admits he absolutely couldn't stand working with. Join us in this video as we reveal these actors. Number 5. Edward Norton. In Fight Club, Brad Pitt and Edward Norton looked like the perfect creative match. 2 actors who understood each other so well on screen that their performances became legendary. But away from the camera, things weren't nearly as smooth. Norton had a reputation for being the intense, method-driven perfectionist, the kind of actor who lived inside every scene. Pitt, on the other hand, brought instinct, looseness, and raw energy. On film, that contrast created magic. Behind the scenes, it created tension. People who worked on the movie later shared that Norton often slipped into a sort of unofficial director role. He rewrote lines, shifted scenes, and challenged decisions without warning. It wasn't malicious, but it rubbed people the wrong way, including Pitt. He never made a fuss publicly, but insiders say he didn't appreciate losing control of moments that mattered. One crew member even described the dynamic as competitive but clipped, like 2 people trying to work together without ever fully clicking. Years later, when Norton was quietly removed from the Avengers franchise over being difficult, many remembered his Fight Club days and thought, "Oh, that tracks." Pitt kept things classy, as always. He never called Norton out or stirred drama. But in 2008, when someone asked if he'd ever team up with Norton again, Pitt simply replied, "We had our moment. I think that film says everything it needed to." It was polite, but also final. His version of closing the door gently and locking it. The result? Despite making one of the most iconic films of the 90s, Pitt and Norton never reunited. No sequel, no new project, not even a special anniversary event. Norton, for his part, rarely brings up the movie unless someone else forces the topic. There's no public feud, no open bitterness, but also no warmth. Sometimes, that silence speaks louder than any quote. Fans always assumed the pair would come together again. How could they not, after creating something that powerful? But when 2 actors have totally different ways of working, it only takes one film to show them they're better off apart. For Brad Pitt, Fight Club was lightning in a bottle. Brilliant, unforgettable, and something that was never meant to strike twice. From one celebrity to another. Stay tuned to find out the next actor Brad Pitt named. Number 4. Gwyneth Paltrow. Before the world obsessed over Brangelina, before every tabloid headline had Brad Pitt's name on it, there was Gwyneth Paltrow. In the mid-90s, they were Hollywood's favorite couple, young, magnetic, and picture-perfect. They met while filming Seven, fell hard, got engaged, and for a moment, it looked like Brad had found his forever. He even called Gwyneth the love of my life, a rare confession from someone usually guarded about his private world. But behind the glossy red carpet photos, something wasn't aligning. Neither of them ever explained what went wrong, but the silence around their split was louder than any scandal. In 1997, Gwyneth ended the engagement. She later admitted, "I was not ready, I was too young. He was too good for me." It was honest, even vulnerable. But Brad never echoed her sentiment. He didn't explain, defend, or reminisce. He simply closed himself off and walked away. Over the years, their distance became almost eerie. They never became friends again, never collaborated, never showed even a hint of reconnecting. When she told Diane Sawyer in 2003 that she messed up the relationship, Brad stayed completely silent. No public warmth, no nod of agreement, not even a polite acknowledgement. And in a town as small as Hollywood, they somehow managed to avoid all meaningful interaction, even when both were fixtures on the Oscar circuit in later years. No shared photos, no backstage conversations, just two famous paths that never crossed again. Then, in 2022, something unexpected happened. Gwyneth and Brad participated in a light, structured interview where she joked about almost becoming his mother-in-law. It was playful and harmless, but it also felt like the first time they'd spoken in decades. For fans, it was surreal. For Pitt, it felt more like a controlled moment than a true reconnection. The truth is, this wasn't a bitter breakup. It wasn't fueled by anger or betrayal. It was finality. Once Gwyneth walked away, Brad didn't chase. And once he moved on, he didn't leave the door cracked open for a reunion, a friendship, or even a memory. Some relationships end quietly, not in fireworks, but in a clean, unspoken closure. For Brad Pitt, this was one of them. The next celebrity Brad Pitt named didn't come as a shocker to a lot of fans. But who could the person be? Let's find out. Number 3. Tom Cruise. In Hollywood, careers rise and fall almost overnight. But somehow Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise have stayed at the top for decades. They came up around the same time in the 80s, survived the constant shifts in the industry, and kept reinventing themselves long after most of their peers faded. Cruise's explosive return in Top Gun. Maverick reminded everyone he could still command a blockbuster, while Pitt's Oscar-winning turn as Cliff Booth and his producing work on Minari proved he could balance prestige and star power with ease. But despite walking such similar paths, these two never became friends. In fact, the atmosphere between them has always been cool, professional, and edged with a tension neither has ever admitted out loud. Their one major collaboration, Interview with the Vampire in 1994, set the tone early. The movie went on to become a cult classic, but making it was another story. Pitt later said the whole experience felt miserable. The freezing temperatures, the endless nights, and the heavy, gloomy atmosphere. And while the bad weather made things worse, so did the dynamic between him and Cruise. They were opposites in every way. Cruise was high energy, intense, and laser-focused. Pitt was quiet, reserved, and more laid back. Instead of balancing each other, their personalities collided. There was no blow-up or dramatic moment, just a steady undercurrent of rivalry that made any real friendship impossible. That strange tension resurfaced years later. In 2009, Pitt starred in Tarantino's *Inglourious Basterds*, just a year after Cruise led his own World War II thriller, Valkyrie. When a German outlet published a quote claiming Pitt had called Valkyrie ridiculous, things escalated fast. Pitt's team immediately denied it, saying he'd never seen the film and the quote was completely made up. But the damage was done. Even if the comment wasn't real, fans sensed the strain. Then Angelina Jolie entered the picture, and the story got even messier. In 2010, Cruise had been in talks to star in Salt, but the project ultimately went to Jolie instead. Studios said it was about timing and locking down a lead, but Hollywood never buys the simple explanation. Jolie was married to Pitt at the time, and people wondered if that casting twist was more than a coincidence. After Pitt and Jolie's very public breakup in 2017, tabloids jumped at the chance to stir up drama again. Stories popped up claiming Jolie and Cruise were having secret meetings about potential projects and maybe more. One insider even claimed Pitt was upset about it. But eventually, the gossip fizzled out. There was no real evidence, just rumors feeding Hollywood's favorite triangle. By 2019, the world nearly got a second Pitt-Cruise collaboration in Ford v Ferrari. For a brief moment, it looked like the two might finally share the screen again. But with both stars commanding enormous salaries, the budget couldn't handle them, and the plan collapsed. The movie went forward without either of them. Still, whispers of competition never really died. Things flared up again when Aaron Taylor Johnson mentioned he kept a personal no list of actors he refused to work with. His list of bad actors. He didn't name anyone, but fans immediately started speculating. And of course, Cruise's name bubbled to the top. Hollywood insiders have long whispered about friction behind the scenes among A-listers, and this only fueled the fire. Then Pitt signed on for his next massive project, a Formula One movie directed by Joseph Kosinski, the same director who had just helped put Cruise back at the top with Top Gun: Maverick. That announcement lit up the industry. Suddenly, people were comparing the two stars again, wondering if this was a subtle power move. According to one source, Cruise wasn't thrilled, though he never said anything publicly. After decades of overlapping careers, missed collaborations, and shared roles, it seemed like the quiet rivalry between them was still alive. They were never enemies, never open rivals, and never outright hostile. But they were also never friends. Pitt may not hate Cruise in the dramatic tabloid sense, but he's made one thing clear through decades of distance. Some actors make great co-workers for a moment, but never long-term allies. And when it comes to Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt has always kept him at arm's length. Now, the next name might come as a shocker. Stay tuned to find out more. Number 2. Courtney Love. Fight Club wasn't supposed to become a cultural landmark. When it hit theaters in 1999, the box office was lukewarm. Critics couldn't agree on what to make of it, and audiences weren't sure whether it was genius or madness. But as the years passed, the film morphed into one of the most quoted, dissected, and beloved movies of its era. David Fincher's fearless direction and the script's sharp bite gave the film its bones, but the cast, Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, and Helena Bonham Carter, gave it its pulse. Norton later said the set was surprisingly full of laughter, a far cry from the darkness of the story. And Helena Bonham Carter's path to playing Marla Singer was just as unexpected. She wasn't immediately sold on the script, unsure of what the film was trying to say. But Brad Pitt had seen her in The Wings of the Dove and pushed Fincher to consider her. Once Fincher took a look, he was convinced she was the right choice. What Carter didn't know was that she had stepped into a role some believed was already taken, at least according to one very loud voice. Courtney Love has always had a storm following her, but her alleged connection to Fight Club remains one of her most dramatic stories. In a podcast interview, she claimed she had been cast as Marla Singer until a fight with Brad Pitt cost her everything. According to her, Pitt and director Gus Van Sant approached her years earlier with a pitch for a Kurt Cobain biopic. It was a deeply painful topic for her, one she guarded fiercely. She said Pitt didn't understand Cobain, didn't grasp the gravity of his legacy, and that she refused the pitch because she didn't trust him to tell the story right. And that's when she says things spiraled. Love claims that after turning down Pitt's involvement in the Cobain project, she was fired from Fight Club. She says Edward Norton, her boyfriend at the time, had to break the news to her. He was heartbroken, she said, but powerless. Fincher allegedly called her later to make it official. But others in the film say that's not how it happened. Some insist Love was never officially cast at all, and that Carter was always Fincher's top pick once he saw her audition. Like many Hollywood stories told years later, the truth may sit somewhere in the middle or be completely untouchable. Despite all the chaos, Love has never attacked Helena Bonham Carter. In fact, she's praised her, saying Carter was the right fit for the role. She's also expressed respect for Norton and Fincher. But Brad Pitt? That's where the tension has never fully faded. Love has spent decades protecting Kurt Cobain's story. And to her, Pitt's involvement in any biopic about the late musician was crossing a line she couldn't tolerate. In 2014, she even started hunting for talent to star in a potential Cobain stage musical, telling reporters she wanted fresh faces capable of capturing his spirit. But like the biopic, nothing came together. Then in 2020, the flames reignited. Love said Pitt, again through his production company, Plan B, approached her about the Cobain film once more. She agreed to a meeting, hoping the years had brought clarity. Instead, she left feeling unheard and dismissed. She later went public again, insisting her earlier account was true, and doubling down on her sense that Pitt had overstepped his influence. Still, in the midst of all the anger and frustration, she managed a strange sort of praise for Pitt as an actor, but not as a producer. Her respect for Cobain's legacy overpowered everything else. To this day, her version of events remains unconfirmed. Hollywood insiders dispute it. Fincher has never backed it. Pitt has never responded. But the one constant is Love's unwavering belief that she was pushed out of Fight Club because she refused to let Pitt near Cobain's story. Whether it's fact, fiction, or a mix of the two, one thing is certain. If her story is true, Courtney Love became one of the few actors Brad Pitt had no interest in ever working with again. From lovers to enemies, this next celebrity won't come as a shock. Let's find out who it is. Number 1. Angelina Jolie. When Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie announced their split in 2016, the world reacted with shock. They had been Hollywood's most powerful couple, global stars, world travelers, parents to 6 children, and partners in work and life. But the collapse of their marriage wasn't just a headline. It became one of the most chaotic, painful, and public unravelings the industry had ever seen. Their story began back in 2003 on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. The chemistry between them was undeniable. Jolie later admitted that she looked forward to coming to work every day just to see Pitt. At the time, Pitt was still married to Jennifer Aniston, so both actors insisted nothing romantic was happening. But by 2005, after Pitt and Aniston officially separated, it became clear that a new chapter had begun. For years, Pitt and Jolie appeared inseparable. They traveled the world, built a massive family, and in 2014 tied the knot in a small ceremony in France. Their 6 children played a part in the wedding, making it feel like a celebration of their entire family, not just their relationship. But just 2 years later, the bond that once looked unbreakable collapsed almost overnight. In September 2016, Jolie filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. What followed turned a private heartbreak into a years-long public brawl filled with accusations, counterclaims, and court filings that painted a terrifying picture of what happened behind closed doors. Jolie's legal team stated the breaking point came during a flight on a private plane, a moment she described as explosive, chaotic, and deeply traumatic. According to the filings, Pitt was already agitated before the plane took off. During the flight, he allegedly got into a heated argument with one of their children, then confronted Jolie in the bathroom. The documents claim the fight escalated when Jolie tried to intervene. She said Pitt lunged at one of the kids, prompting her to restrain him, and he responded by slamming his body backward, injuring her in the process. The filings went even further, alleging that when the other children stepped in, Pitt choked one child and struck another. These were some of the most disturbing accusations ever made against him. Pitt's attorney denied all of it, calling the claims distortions and insisting Pitt was not the monster the documents described. They acknowledged mistakes were made, but argued the blame was shared. But the battles didn't stop there. Another major war erupted over Chateau Miraval, the French winery they once owned together. In 2021, Jolie sold her 50% stake to a Russian businessman, shocking Pitt. He sued her, claiming she made the sale purely to hurt him, knowing it would wound him financially and personally. Jolie fired back with new legal filings in 2024, saying she only sold to an outside buyer because Pitt tried to force her into signing a non-disclosure agreement, one she says would have prevented her from ever speaking publicly about the alleged misconduct on the plane. According to Jolie's team, the NDA wasn't about business, it was about silence. They argued Pitt was using Miraval as leverage, trying to tie her financial freedom to her ability to tell her story. For Jolie, that was unacceptable. For Pitt, it was a fight over reputation and control. And for the children, it was another reminder of the day everything changed. The private flight that started this legal war has lingered in the center of every courtroom filing. Jolie's lawyers said it was the moment the children saw a side of Pitt that shaped their fears and their mother's decisions. Pitt's camp said the story is exaggerated and manipulated. Nearly a decade later, the truth remains tangled in legal documents and bitter disputes. But one thing is clear. Angelina Jolie became someone Brad Pitt once loved deeply, and later, someone he could never fully escape. But how did Brad Pitt's strained relationship with Angelina Jolie affect his relationship with their kids? Keep watching to find out. The children. Brad Pitt lost along the way. As Brad Pitt's split from Angelina Jolie dragged deeper into the courts and the headlines, the most heartbreaking fallout wasn't the lost marriage. It was the growing distance between Pitt and his 6 children. By 2024, whispers from inside the family made one thing painfully clear. The bond that once defined the Jolie-Pitt household had fractured, and in some cases, shattered completely. The years of legal battles, accusations, and tense back and forth had taken a heavy emotional toll on the kids. Maddox and Pax, the oldest, were hit the hardest. Maddox had quietly pulled away as early as 2016, stepping out of family gatherings and making it clear he wanted no contact with his father. Pax went further. In a jaw-dropping Father's Day post, he accused Pitt of emotional misconduct and of ignoring the fears of his younger siblings. He also claimed Pitt was manipulating public perception, a charge that echoed the family's biggest fights. Pitt, according to friends, was devastated. Hurt, shocked, and worried about how far the rift had grown. But he chose not to respond publicly. No statements, no pushback, no counter-accusations. He hoped silence would keep things from getting worse, even as the divide widened. Inside the courtroom, the children's voices began to shape the custody battle itself. In 2021, Jolie's lawyers filed documents showing that 3 of the older kids wanted to speak directly to the private judge overseeing the case. By 2024, it was revealed that Shiloh, long seen as the emotional center of the family, was among them. The news reportedly hit Pitt hard. It echoed Maddox's earlier testimony in 2021, given after he became an adult. Insiders said his account painted Pitt in a harsh light, a moment that lingered throughout the proceedings. Although Pitt was briefly granted joint custody, the ruling was later called into question after the judge was removed. Jolie's side argued that the children's emotional trauma hadn't been fully considered. Others claimed the kids' views had been represented through mental health experts instead of direct testimony. Whatever the truth, the larger picture was the same. The damage was real, deep, and perhaps permanent. And while Pitt stayed mostly silent, Jolie hinted at the weight she'd been carrying. In an interview with Times Radio, she spoke about feeling drained, wondering if she had anything left to give artistically after surviving years of emotional turmoil. In W magazine, she made a cutting remark about valuing honesty and her refusal to tolerate people who pretend to be something they're not. Many read that as a quiet but unmistakable message aimed at Pitt. By 2025, new reports said the children were urging Jolie to tell her story fully, to share what they had lived through. Jolie, however, seemed torn. Instead of speaking out, she focused on advocating for legal reforms to protect other families facing similar battles. Her silence, in its own way, became a statement of how much the past decade had taken from her. Meanwhile, Pitt found himself increasingly isolated, not by Hollywood, but by the children he once hoped to raise in a home filled with love and stability. It's a loss no award, no role, and no public image can soften. And for Brad Pitt, it may be the one wound time won't heal. Although his family might be broken, it doesn't stop his impact around the world. Keep watching to find out more. The activist, Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt has long used his fame to shine a light on causes beyond the silver screen. In October 2004, he visited the University of Missouri to encourage students to vote in the U.S. presidential election, openly supporting John Kerry. Around the same time, he spoke publicly in favor of public funding for embryonic stem cell research, advocating for scientific exploration that could unlock life-saving cures. He endorsed California's Proposition 71, a ballot initiative designed to fund stem cell research at the state level, arguing that society had to give its best and brightest the opportunity to find breakthroughs. Philanthropy has remained a cornerstone of Pitt's life. He supports One Campaign, which fights AIDS and poverty in developing nations. In 2005, he narrated the PBS series RX for Survival, a global health challenge highlighting pressing international health issues. Beyond social activism, Pitt has a deep interest in architecture and sustainable design. He studied computer-aided design at Frank Gehry's Los Angeles office, immersing himself in the craft. He narrated A Two Design, a PBS series showcasing environmentally friendly architecture worldwide, and in 2000 co-authored a book on the Blacker House with architects Thomas A. Hines and Rendell Makinson. In 2006, he launched the Make It Right Foundation to rebuild New Orleans' 9th Ward after Hurricane Katrina. The project brought together 13 architectural firms and the environmental organization Global Green USA, with many firms donating services. Pitt and philanthropist Steve Bing each contributed $5 million to finance sustainable, affordable housing. By October 2008, 6 homes were completed, and in September 2009, Pitt was honored by the U.S. Green Building Council for his efforts. He even met with President Barack Obama and Speaker Nancy Pelosi in 2009 to discuss making green housing a national model. Pitt and Jolie also co-founded the Jolie Pitt Foundation in September 2006 to support humanitarian causes worldwide. The foundation began with $1 million in donations, each to Global Action for Children and Doctors Without Borders, followed by $100,000 to the Daniel Pearl Foundation. Their charitable efforts continued with $1 million donations in 2009 to the UN Refugee Agency helping Pakistanis displaced by conflict, and in 2010 to Doctors Without Borders for Haiti earthquake relief. On social issues, Pitt has been outspoken as well. He supports same-sex marriage and stated in 2006 that he would marry Jolie once all Americans could legally wed. In 2008, he donated $100,000 to oppose California's Proposition 8, which sought to overturn the state Supreme Court's legalization of same-sex marriage. He participated in a 2012 staged reenactment of the federal trial overturning Prop 8, playing Judge Vaughn Walker. Politically, Pitt reaffirmed his support for Barack Obama during the 2012 election and narrated an advertisement for Joe Biden's 2020 campaign, showing that his activism has spanned multiple presidential terms. Brad Pitt's public life has never been limited to acting alone. From health initiatives and humanitarian relief to architecture, sustainable design, and social justice, Pitt has consistently used his platform to influence, inspire, and advocate for causes that extend far beyond Hollywood's spotlight. From fame and looks to global influence. Let's look deeper into Brad Pitt's world. The star Brad Pitt couldn't escape. Brad Pitt has long been celebrated as one of the most attractive actors in Hollywood history. In 1995, Empire named him one of the 25 sexiest stars in film, while People crowned him Sexiest Man Alive the same year, a title he would reclaim in 2000. But Pitt's appeal went beyond just good looks. From 2006 to 2008, he consistently ranked on Forbes' Celebrity 100 list, placing 20th, 5th, and 10th, showcasing his influence not only as a performer, but as a cultural icon. In 2007, Time recognized him on their Time 100 list, highlighting how he used his star power to shine a spotlight on stories and places rarely captured on camera. He appeared again in 2009 under their Builders and Titans list, cementing his status as both influential and enduring in the public eye. By 2025, his films had grossed over $7.5 billion worldwide, a testament to both his skill and mass appeal. The world's fascination with Brad only intensified with his relationship with Angelina Jolie, starting in 2005. When Jolie became pregnant in early 2006, the media frenzy reached unprecedented levels. Reuters described the attention as Brangelina fever, calling it the point of insanity. To escape the spotlight, the couple flew to Namibia for the birth of their first child, an event dubbed by paparazzi blogs as the most anticipated baby since Jesus Christ. The same attention followed Jolie's second pregnancy 2 years later, with reporters and photographers camped outside the seaside hospital in Nice for 2 weeks to capture every moment. Beyond personal life, Pitt became a marketing powerhouse. A 2006 ACA Nielsen survey across 42 international markets found that Pitt, alongside Jolie, was the favorite celebrity endorser worldwide. He starred in a number of high-profile commercials, including a Heineken ad during the 2005 Super Bowl directed by David Fincher, who had previously helmed Pitt in Seven and Fight Club. Other commercials included Acura Integra, where he appeared opposite Russian model Tatiana Soroko, as well as campaigns for SoftBank and Edwin Jeans. Even the Cosmos recognized him. In 2015, Minor Planet 29,132 Brad Pitt was named in his honor. Despite all this fame, Pitt has remained remarkably private in the digital age. He doesn't use social media and has no accounts on any platform, preferring to navigate his career and personal life outside the constant glare of online attention. It's a rare combination, A man whose star power is unmatched, yet whose private life remains tightly controlled, proving that even the world's most visible celebrities can maintain boundaries. So what do you think of the 5 actors Brad Pitt named, and what he has been up to presently? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video shown on your screen to catch up on your favorite celebrity stories. See you there.